So the 2020 reissues of some classic death vinyl have been released by Relapse Records, and we're going to take a look at these. Plus, we're going to talk a little bit about the album history of each, the vinyl variants, of course, and we're going to talk about the digital download bonus tracks that you get with each record. So you know what you should do? You should stick around. So many of you already know the story about this band, but for the newbies, let's go through a brief rundown. Founded and fronted by legendary guitarist Chuck Schuldiner from the ashes of Mantis, the band officially became Death in 1984, recorded some demos over the next few years, then signed to Combat and released their debut album, Scream Bloody Gore. Although Chuck wouldn't take credit for it, this band established the definitive death metal sound. Possessed, of course, was more death thrash, but Death was, at its core, pure death metal. Credit where credit's due. Which is likely why Relapse released the entire Death discography on vinyl this year. Well, almost the entire discography. Sadly, Symbolic is not in here, likely because Roadrunner is still hanging on to the rights and won't license out the record. Strange, because Roadrunner did license Symbolic to Metal Blade for a 2014 vinyl release, so it's out there if you want to track it down. It just won't be part of this set of reissues. So my story with these albums is I got into Death in 1987 when Scream Bloody Gore first came out, and big fan of the first so many albums. After Human, I kind of lost interest, but I've gotten a bit older and I've listened to those last 3 albums, and I've gotten into them quite a bit to varying degrees. And we're going to go through all of that later, but I just wanted to let you know that's where I'm coming from. Aside from that, let's take a look at the 2020 vinyl reissues from Death. Starting things off with album number 1, this is Scream Bloody Gore. Came out originally on May 25th, 1987. Very raw, very aggressive. It's very much a first album in a lot of ways. This is old demo material for them, re-recorded, so it has that sensibility going for it. Later albums, of course, get more technical, they get more musical, production increases, but this is definitely the start of things in a lot of ways. Don't get me wrong, I love this album, but I probably like the albums coming up just a little bit more. Most of the tracks on this album are really classic, but my favorites are definitely Zombie Ritual and, of course, Evil Dead. So the vinyl variant on this one is, according to the hype sticker, clear vinyl with blood red pinwheels and splatter. And we'll take a look at that. Of course, that's basically what it is. What's interesting about this, and there are pinwheels throughout this collection, by the way, is that this looks like a decoration for a children's birthday party. It's very colorful, it's very cheerful, which is interesting when you juxtapose it against the lyrical content, the band name, and all of that. But I can kind of imagine these hanging up amongst the balloons and the streamers, maybe pop a little confetti, go, yay, death. You know, that's a theme for a birthday party, I think. Parents, take note. Definitely. It's an interesting choice. It's an odd choice. I think the guys at Relapse Records had a bit of a sense of humor, perhaps. But yeah, so pinwheels. Also, with each of these Death albums comes an insert, a 4-page insert. Gives you a little bit of liner notes and some lyrics, also some other notes, good pictures of the band, and the band being 2 people at the time. Pictures of Chuck, of course, you gotta have that. And yeah, all around, pretty good package. You're gonna see that through all of these. There's a lot of attention to art design, but also details on each of the records. So I just wanted to show you some differences between the original release and the reissues. You can see that there's been some color grading here with the reissue. The colors are better. They don't lean into the green so much as like they do here. Also, the Scream Bloody Gore logo is a little bit bolder, easier to read. I think overall this looks a lot better than this. Also, the back covers are very different, completely different artwork. The pictures here are interesting because only 2 of these 3 guys are really on the album, and that's shown in the liner notes here on this version. So a little bit of a correction there. Other than that, yeah, pretty different. I definitely like this cover a lot better. I think the contrast values, the color, and the bolder font looks much better. So as I mentioned, you get some digital downloads with each album. You get a download card, basically. There are 17 bonus tracks digitally that come with this particular album. There are rehearsal tracks from August of 1986, and there are also some Florida session recordings. So definitely look out for that. Next up is album number 2 from the band. This is Leprosy, came out August 12th, 1988 originally. Artwork also by Ed Repka. We all know Ed Repka and his amazing art on so many death metal album covers. Death is certainly not an exception. Amazing album. Better production, better songwriting, just better all the way around. I think some of that is in part because a lot of the material was written for this album, as opposed to the first album, which is a lot of collection of demo tracks and stuff like that. Also, I would heavily credit Rick Rozz. Rick Rozz is the guitar player who comes in on this album. He co-wrote a lot of the material, most of it actually, with Chuck. So I think he brings a sense of musicality to the band, probably inspires Chuck to some degree. They were getting along back then, I think. So, yeah, there's that. So I think he really adds to this album quite a bit. Of course, Rick Rozz would go on to the band Massacre, and they'd put out this amazing debut album called From Beyond, which I highly recommend. In fact, if you like this album, you like the sound in this album quite a bit, especially the guitar tone, you should definitely go to that album, because in some ways it's a continuation of what Rick was doing on this record. So I would definitely recommend From Beyond by Massacre. Now, I have quite a few favorite tracks on this album. I think the whole album is a favorite in a lot of ways, but definitely Born Dead, Open Casket, and of course, Pull the Plug. Pull the Plug is a fan favorite. It's probably my very favorite Death song. So there you go. So vinyl variant for this one is clear vinyl with neon, magenta pinwheels, and splatter. As it says right there. And that's exactly what you get. There it is. Again, children's birthday party. Amazing. So cheerful. And the other labels there. The labels are interesting. They switch colors from side to side, but that doesn't always happen. You'll see that later. But yeah, again, interesting choice. Of course, a little bit of differences between the original version and the reissue. Again, the colors are a lot better on this reissue. The logo is a bit darker on this one than on the original, but overall, pretty good, pretty good. Different back covers, of course, again. Picture of the band here, and this lovely artwork here. Which do I like better? I don't really know. Probably this, because if you want pictures of the band, you can check the reissue. Regarding the original version, though, what you are missing in the reissue is the gatefold. There is a gatefold with the original. So, if you're looking for that, it ain't there. Like I mentioned with the picture on the back of the original version, that picture is in the 4-page insert right there on this side. So in case you missed that picture, liner notes and lyrics and the photo collage. In fact, you're going to see a lot of that in these inserts, but it's great to have. Lots of great old pictures of the band. Fantastic. And there's some more there for you. So yeah, good stuff. As for digital bonus tracks that come with this particular title, you get 10 of them this time, and they are the September and December rehearsal sessions for Leprosy. Next up is album number 3 for Death. This is Spiritual Healing. Artwork also by Ed Repka. This came out originally on February 16th, 1990. Great album. This is where we hear Death get a little bit more prog. This is the start of that. It's not too heavy on this album, but it's definitely there. Also, this is when we see James Murphy appear in the band. He replaced Rick Rozz, who went on to Massacre, as I mentioned. Murphy's an amazing guitar player. He was in Cancer before this. He was on their second album, Death Shall Rise. Amazing album. You should hear it, especially the track Burning Casket. Amazing stuff. Murphy then later went on to Obituary and Testament, and he's been in a slew of other bands, a slew of them, and a lot of projects as well. Probably because he's that good, and he brings a lot to this band and a lot to this album. Favorite tracks, of course, are Defensive Personalities and especially Living Monstrosity. When I did college radio, this album came out back then, and I played the crap out of this album, and especially that song. I probably got listeners sick of it, actually, but Living Monstrosity is a great track. It's the one I would go to and recommend. Yes, definitely. Living Monstrosity. Great opener, by the way. This is also where we see a shift away from the horror and gore lyrics for the most part for this band. Chuck gets more into social issues I think the cover kind of shows that. A little bit of televangelism going on here, but also abortion and some other topics as well. Nothing too politically divisive, which is kind of nice about Death. Death just sort of gives you what it is and lets you decide, which I like about bands, especially in the current climate. So according to the hype sticker, for this one, we've got custom pinwheel with splatter. Definitely pretty vague. Let's take a look. And there it is. They are following with the color schemes of each album. You can kind of see they go together a bit. I got some blue, got some black, got some white, got some clear, and why not? Also, the disc labels are different again. And I bet you already knew this, but there is a 4-page insert with this one as well. Picture of the band and liner notes and lyrics. Very much the same layout as the others, which probably makes sense. I'm sure one person did all of them. Some more band collage, great pictures, of course. And there's the other side as well. Of course, digital downloads come with this. Bonus tracks are the big thing there. They have 16 of them this time. There are the rehearsals for this album, as well as what they call joke and jam tracks. And you can listen to those and figure out just what the heck that means. Of course, after album number 3 should be album number 4. At least until later on, where we have a bit of a break in the discography. We'll get to that in a bit. This is Human. Came out originally on October 22nd, 1991. The noticeable thing on this album, of course, is another lineup change, a rather big one. In addition to Chuck, we've got Paul Masvidal, formerly of Cynic. I think he brings a lot of progressiveness from that band to this band. Also Steve DiGiorgio on bass. You might know Steve. He's now in Testament. He's been in Testament for a while now. Amazing bass player, virtuoso, in my opinion, and the opinion of a lot of other people as well. And drummer Sean Reinert, of course, who also is from Cynic. Sean unfortunately died in January of 2020, which is very, very sad. He was quite a talent. So it's an interesting lineup, and I think it brings more of that progressive stuff here, and you'll hear that music later on. I think Chuck wanted to surround himself with proggy musicians. I think that was the direction he really wanted things to go, as is the case of the next couple of albums, and of course Control Denied, which we'll talk about later. Yeah. Though, given what I said about the prog stuff on here, I really feel Human is the sweet spot for Death in regards to their death metal sound before this and their more progressive leanings later on. Especially that it favors the death metal a little bit more. I'm going to say that because I like that about it a little bit more, but I think the progressive stuff does color the album well. It's not too excessive in my own opinion, and according to my own personal tastes. Yours might vary, of course, but yeah, sweet spot. Of course, I got some favorite tracks on this one. I would definitely say Lack of Comprehension, which was the video track, as well as Secret Face, and of course, Suicide Machine. Amazing song. Check that song out first. Vinyl variant this time is clear vinyl with bone white pinwheels and splatter. There it is. Bone white. Makes it sound less kiddie, doesn't it? Here is the vinyl. Again, there's the white, the bone white. Also, what's interesting about this is that the disc labels are now the same color, which is an odd choice considering all the others, or the ones before it at the very least. Yeah, interesting. As for the insert, 4 pages again, and we've got the standard picture, liner notes, lyrics, and there are some notes here. Paul Masvidal gives you a little bit of what he experienced recording this album. Good stuff. And there's some more notes. Looks like we've got some handwritten lyrics there, probably from Chuck. Yep, good. As for the digital bonus tracks, you get a whopping 20 of them with this album. You get some instrumental studio versions of the tracks, which is pretty interesting, especially if you want to do some karaoke, some death karaoke. Also, you get the Human demo tracks, which is really fantastic. Next on to album number 5. This is Individual Thought Patterns. Came out June 22nd, 1993. We have more lineup changes here, of course. We have Andy LaRocque on guitar. Of course, you know Andy. He's the guitar player for King Diamond, the classic guitar player for that band. Gave them their sound. Also, Gene Hoglan on drums. He was in Dark Angel before this, and he's currently in Testament. With Steve DiGiorgio, incidentally. So I'm more or less good with a lot of the tracks on here, but of course, my favorite is the final track called The Philosopher. Of course, vinyl variant for this one is clear vinyl with white pinwheels and splatter. Big surprise there. And I think that although this is probably the weakest of the pinwheel designs, I'm not as impressed with this one as some of the others, if you can call it impressed. I definitely dig the disc labels. I think they're the best of the disc labels for these releases. I like this one here, but I also like the flip side with the picture of Chuck. I think this is an amazing shot of him. The band members are in there too somewhere, but it's about Chuck. And I bet you thought I was going to leave out the 4-page insert. Not a chance. Here is that. There's that picture of Chuck again. Lots of liner notes. Lots to say about this album. Gene Hoglan, of course, does a little bit of a introduction to it as well. More lyrics there. And, of course, the band collage with some cool flyers, backstage passes, and, of course, the photos. So I'll be honest about this album. I wasn't really embracing it when it first came out. In fact, I had it originally on cassette tape. Here's that cassette. And I just didn't listen to it all that much. I think it was heading more in that progressive direction. And back in the 90s, I really wasn't receptive to that. I have listened to it in later years, in my exceedingly middle ages, I guess. And I do like it a bit more. I've kind of mellowed out about the whole prog thing, anti-prog thing, I guess. I like some of it now. I'm going to admit that. And I'm good with it on this record. Yeah. As for digital download tracks, the bonus tracks in particular, there are 11 of them. There's one outtake track. I'll let you figure out which one that is. But more importantly, there's live material in support of this record from Germany in 1993. I highly recommend you hear that material. And skipping album number 6, going straight to album number 7, this is The Sound of Perseverance. This is the Final Death album, released originally on August 31st, 1998. This is definitely full-on prog death metal. It definitely does that hard lean into prog. There's some reasons for that, especially considering that this is basically a de facto Control Denied album, with some leftover material from Symbolic, the album previous to this. There are a lot of versions of what happened. Chuck has waffled a bit on whether or not some of this material was meant for Control Denied. He's waffled. He said yes, but no. You can decide for yourself. Another story, of course, is that Nuclear Blast, the label at the time, was demanding one more Death record, and so maybe due to time constraints as well as label demands, this is what you get. It's not my favorite album from this band, to be honest. I don't like Chuck's vocals at all. They get screechy at this point, very different from his typical death metal growls. They skitter into black metal vocal territory at times. It's just not really a big deal for me. The music is decent. I'm warming up to it, but it's still going to take me a while longer, for sure. So despite my ambivalence for this album, I do have one favorite track, and that's A Moment of Clarity. It's right there towards the end. Also, if you're interested, there is a cover of the Judas Priest song Painkiller. Okay. And of course, taking a look at the vinyl, this says custom pinwheels and splatter. Again, very, very vague. But the nice thing about this is a double album release. So you get 2 records, one different from the other. I kind of dig when they do that. And I would probably say the design on these is probably the most interesting of all of them. The pinwheel design is more of a splatter. And I really like that more. Also, I like the disc labels on this quite a bit. So this is disc 1. And just to show you disc 2, naturally. Disc 2 I actually like a little bit more as well. I like the disc labels, and yeah. Probably my favorite of the designs. And of course, the insert is here as well. Follows a slightly different layout from the other records, but it also follows the layout of the back of this jacket. So pretty cool. Credits, liner notes, lyrics, and of course some great pictures. This is probably one of my favorite of this era. And there they are, being outdoorsy, as death metal bands are wont to do. And of course, the bonus digital download tracks, there are 10 of them in total, and they are all from the 1997 and 1998 demos for this record. Check them out. And those were the 2020 vinyl reissues from the band Death. Hope you enjoyed a look at those. Let me know which albums you like the most, which ones you like the least. Let me know if the pinwheel designs bug the crap out of you, or if you're just fine with them. Maybe you like them. Let me know all of that and anything else relevant in the comments below. And of course, this is the part of the video where I ask you to do 3 things. First of all, give this video a thumbs up. Also, subscribe if you haven't already done so. And definitely share this video with some of your friends. I do metal vinyl collecting videos once or twice a week, and I think you'd enjoy them. You should definitely check out the playlist too at this channel. I got some good stuff. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.